Discworld is a world and a mirror of worlds. This is not a book about Australia. No, it happens somewhere entirely different, which just happens to be here and there a bit Australian. Still, no worries, right? Hello and welcome to The Book Thing. My name is Mark, and today I'm continuing with my reread of the Discworld series with book 22, and that is The Last Continent. So there's a lot of things going on in The Last Continent, but first and foremost is Rincewind taking in the continent of XXXX, which is quite clearly the Discworld version of Australia. So at the end of Interesting Times, Rincewind got catapulted off to this lost continent, and in the interim has spent his time doing what Rincewind does best, which is running away from anything that is likely to kill you, which in a country that is vaguely Australian is quite a lot of things. A lot of venomous, creepy crawlies, all trying to get Rincewind all at the same time. Going on in parallel to this, back in Unseen University in Ankh-Morpork, the librarian has become quite ill. You will know that the librarian is the orangutan who originally used to be a human wizard but got turned into an orangutan due to a magical accident. But because that has interfered with his ability to keep his original shape, his new magical illness is causing him to change into a variety of everyday objects and sneezing and feeling pretty under the weather. The wizards are concerned for his well-being and for the fact that they won't have a librarian anymore, and want to try and treat him magically. Unfortunately, the only way to treat someone magically is to know their name. And since the librarian became an orangutan, he has wanted to avoid being turned back into a human, so he has hidden all records of what his name is. And the wizards come to the conclusion that the only person who might actually remember the librarian's name is the wizard who was his last assistant in the library, and that was Rincewind. So the wizards now want to try and track down and find Rincewind, and then through various convoluted means end up on a journey themselves in the direction of Forex. I'm not going to say much more than that because that's how they end up getting there is kind of part and parcel to the plot of the story. From Rincewind's side, he's getting the whole tour of everything that is broadly Australian. Quite frequently that is linked with Australian cinema. So we get a dwarf who is called Mad, who is very much an analogue of Mad Max. There is a travelling drag show, very much akin to the one in Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. And there is the feeling that Rincewind is this outlaw, very much in the vein of Ned Kelly. In addition to that, we also get all sorts of references to Australian songs and the Opera House and everything else that is remotely Australian. By the way, in case you hadn't realised, I am actually rereading the entire Discworld series all the way back from Rincewind's first adventure in The Colour of Magic up to the end in The Shepherd's Crown. If you'd like to see any more of these videos, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button, because I do a new one of these every week. I get the impression that Pratchett's having an awful lot of fun with this, and I also get the impression that Pratchett does have a real affection for Australia. There's two parallel stories, and it is divided fairly evenly, so this is less a full Rincewind story, but half a Rincewind story, half the Unseen University staff story. And they're both reasonably successful. What's happening with the university staff is a little bit on the convoluted side, but when the two stories do merge back together again, It's done in a fairly satisfying way, but yeah, it kind of feels a little bit like the plot has gotten in the way of all the bits of Australian things that Pratchett wanted to squeeze into the book. Although Rincewind does make some more appearances in some of the later books, like he has an extended part in The Last Hero, and I think he's in Unseen Academicals as well. But this really is properly the last book where Rincewind is the star. And you know what? It's a pretty decent send-off for Rincewind. His books have never been the strongest in the Discworld series, but they've been fun, and I've had a lot of enjoyment with Rincewind as a character and his reluctant heroism and very intentional cowardice. I gave it a 3.5 stars. It's a strong 3.5 stars. It's bordering on a 4, but not quite. But I enjoyed it, and it's a fitting farewell to the character of Rincewind. So I hope you enjoyed my review of The Last Continent. The next book I'll be reading is A Return to the Witches, and I think the final in the Witches series of books as well, which is Carpe Jugulum. So I hope I'll see you around for that one. In the meantime, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this. I really do appreciate it, and take care.